Hello and welcome to this, my very first kind of sort of proper big boy YouTube video. I mean, we've made a little bit of effort at least, right? We're actually in landscape mode. There's a desk which adds a sense of professionalism. We'll see how long that actually lasts, but yeah, here we are. Now this is the very first installation of my brand new regular monthly segment called What Happened, or What Went Down, or What the Frick is Going On? I don't know. What Happened, I suppose, is a working title. If you have suggestions for better ones, you can leave them in the comments. But basically the premise is at the beginning of every month, I'll make a video that sums up all of the things, well, not all of the things, because the news cycle is insane right now, but some of the things that happened in the month previous. So back in the beginning of the month, which feels like years ago, Elon announced that he was leaving not only Doge, but seemingly all of politics in general.
In terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Basically, it seems like he's now done doing the damage that he wanted to do, weakening a bunch of government agencies responsible for the oversight of the doings of business people much like himself, and also sowing a bunch of discontent within the minds of the American public, convincing them that the reason for inflation and poverty in general is, broadly speaking, because the government is spending way too much money on transgender book clubs and lesbian mountain hiking initiatives in Micronesia, and obviously has nothing to do with all the, government subsidized corporate billionaires like himself, Poverty is obviously caused by brown people and gay people and poor people, not by rich people. That's ridiculous. So, since he determined that he was done doing the damage that he wanted to do politically, it was time to start trying to undo some of the damage that he had done to himself professionally. It was a ride, it was a mess, it was a bit of fun, really.
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they?
Elon initiated the conflict by suddenly announcing that Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, that of course Elon has known about for ages, is actually a disgusting abomination that increases spending, which is very obviously true, but again, Elon has known about for ages. To which the Taco King responded, I think you're just mad because I took away your taxpayer-funded EV subsidies and you're afraid to do big boy capitalism without the training wheels on. He went on to say, all my exes are crazy, it's probably Trump derangement, he's probably just jealous because I'm seeing other billionaires now. I'm paraphrasing this part, of course. Prince Pelon replied, oh yeah, speaking of your exes, why don't you tell them about that one you keep hoping we're all just gonna forget about? To which Herr Trumpf replied, oh yeah, speaking of government spending, why don't you tell them about how almost every dollar you have is the result of government spending and I can take it away whenever I want? To which Elon replied, oh yeah, good luck getting your astronauts back from space without me. To which all the sensible people said, this is actually a really good real-time demonstration as to why privatizing everything and leaving the government at the mercy of a bunch of temperamental megalomaniacal billionaires is actually a really bad idea. Zohran Mamdani made waves early in the month by being a mayoral Democratic primary candidate who refused to express his undying desire to travel to Israel.
Where would you go first? Mr. Cuomo?
I would go to Israel.
Mr. Tilson, where would you go?
Yeah, I'd make my fourth trip to Israel.
Mr. Mamdani?
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Now, I'm not sure why the burning desire to travel to Israel is such a vital trait for the mayor of New York to have, but the people hosting the debate certainly seem to think that it was.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel?
I mean, I understand that Israel is an ally of the United States, but, so is Canada, so is Mexico, so is the United Kingdom. There doesn't seem to be all that much pressure on politicians to declare their undying, unquestioning willingness to support Mexico or Canada. It's almost like there's some kind of powerful external force shaping the narrative of mainstream American politics. Zohran caused further waves by self-identifying as a democratic socialist, which of course, according to the establishment and the mainstream narrative, is basically indistinguishable from being a communist. Not that they have any functional idea of what a communist actually is, but they also support things like billion-dollar bailouts and massive corporate subsidies, so they also have no idea what a capitalist is, clearly. anyway, so who cares what they think? Now, this conversation is still ongoing and still escalating, going so far as there being an actual consolidated effort to try to deport the man. Donald Trump himself has stated that he wouldn't in fact shy away from measures like defunding New York and possibly arresting the man. Because of course nothing says small government and states' rights or local rights like the federal government defunding areas that don't do what the federal government want them to do and actually arresting politicians that disagree with the status quo. Anyway, in other news, Greta Thunberg and the good people of the Freedom Flotilla probably tired of hearing people say things like, you know, if you love Palestinians so much, you'd go there and actually help, but you won't because you're afraid the jihadists will throw you off a roof or whatever, decided to put their money where their mouth is, pack up a boat and go there to actually help, to which those people immediately changed their tune and said, hey, you can't actually go there to help. The Israeli government, of course, illegally intercepted the Freedom Flotilla in international waters, adding yet another war crime to their depressingly impressive growing tally. And when the crew of the Freedom Flotilla tried to rightfully point out that that was in fact an illegal abduction and a war crime, the Western media quite predictably responded by saying, hey, why are you making this all about yourself, huh? To which Greta Thunberg responded, you are the ones who are making this all about me. That's my best impression. Thunberg pictured here sporting a dejected smile, no doubt at the irony of being on a boat filled with food intended for starving children whilst being handed a sandwich by one of the people responsible for starving said children. This is the most ironic sandwich in human history. In other news, the people of Los Angeles gathered in protest in response to the authoritarian nature of ICE arresting and detaining people without due process, separating children from their families, and disappearing people illegally off to El Salvadorian prisons. The Trump administration decided to respond by showing that they truly heard the disgruntled cries of their people and responded with more authoritarianism, because of course they did, determining that the best measured, balanced response would be to deploy not only the National Guard, but the Marines in order to subdue American citizens. Now, if you're an American that's thinking Marines deployed against the American people is probably a good thing, you might accidentally be an enemy of the American people. You might want to look into that. Jesus Christ, I'm not even halfway. How long was this month? I haven't even got to nearly World War III yet. Speaking of, in other news, nearly World War III happened. Or at least so they would have us believe. See, I'm of the personal opinion that this whole maybe World War III is going to happen narrative that shows up pretty much anytime something major starts to brew is actually purposeful misdirection. Essentially, if they immediately go, maybe it's going to be World War III, then when it doesn't actually escalate into World War III, we all sigh a collective sigh of relief and act like we've gotten away with something. That way the establishment gets to engage violently, dropping bombs and the like, and then describe themselves as peacemakers simply for not dropping quite as many bombs as they could have. It all kicked off when the Israeli government launched preemptive strikes against Iran by targeting key people and facilities within the Iranian infrastructure. Now, a preemptive strike is when you attack somebody who hasn't attacked you yet before they attack you, so they can't attack you. Now, some of you might be saying that just sounds like attacking someone, and yeah, the Iranians responded by returning fire because, well, of course they did. Benjamin Netanyahu justified this yet another war crime for the tally by claiming it was necessary because Iran were possibly mere moments away from developing nuclear weapons. Lots and lots and lots of people responded to that by pointing out that that's something he's been claiming very consistently since about 1992.
To stop the nuclearization of terrorist states. But the deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
By next spring, at most, by next summer. You don't want this Iran to have neither nuclear weapons or an entire nuclear arsenal, and this in a matter of weeks, once it makes that decision.
So either Iran has been half a year away from developing nuclear weapons for 35 years and are just really bad at finishing that final sweet step, or Benjamin Netanyahu has some sort of ulterior motive for trying to drag the West into a war with Iran. If only there were some sort of clear record that indicates he has a history of lying about Middle Eastern leaders having weapons of mass destruction in order to draw the West into useless wars that serve his interests.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever.
Now, Donald Trump actually responded to this in a surprisingly measured way by saying, "I'm going to take a few weeks to think about this." The very next day, however, leaks from the White House said he was considering using nuclear weapons, and Donald Trump himself announced that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize all in the span of a single day. Then a few days after that, he announced through a social media post that he had dropped bombs on a foreign government and announced that now was the time for peace, all in the span of a single social media post. Now, I'd like to point out that this whole situation with Iran was never resolved. It just kind of fizzled out. We're not talking about it as much, but the West is still ostensibly kind of in open conflict with Iran. In other but very related news, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz revealed testimony from IDF soldiers admitting that they were in fact being ordered to open fire on unarmed civilian men, women, and children who were trying to access aid, verifying once again that the Israeli government were in fact using food as a weapon of war, which, again, war crime. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, the media and the establishment threw a collective hissy fit because some musicians said a rather menacing chant on stage during a performance at Glastonbury Festival, rather predictably and rather ironically perhaps blowing the violent nature of the chant wildly out of proportion while simultaneously downplaying the actual real-world violence that chant was meant as a protest against. Okay, I think I'm done there. I think that's it for this video. There were, of course, other things that happened during the month, but I'm sure you can find them elsewhere. Now, I will be doing another video like this at the end of this month. I will, of course, be doing other things in the in-between time. If you want to get a load of those, if you want to see them, if you want to see them, then I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel and hit the like and hit the bell and hit all the things I'm supposed to tell you to hit. I forget what they are.